All right, thank you. The next few three talks are people that I've known quite well for quite a long time. And I'd like to begin with Luis Farfán from Baja, California of Mexico. He received a PhD in atmospheric sciences from the University of Arizona here in Tucson. He works at CICE, a geophysical research center on the Baja California Peninsula. He's been studying the impact of lightning in the population of central and northwestern Mexico using ground-based networks, along with records of fatalities. I've been monitoring and watching as he prepares his study. Very, very detailed and very good work. So go ahead, Luis.
Thank you, Ron. Can you hear me well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thanks. I will talk about it's a brief summary of what we are doing in Mexico for the analysis of lightning and population impact. I will talk about deep convection first, about the cloud distribution from satellite in Central and North America, and then about lightning patterns that we are seeing from Vaisala's GLD 360 network. And finally, an application of a national database in Mexico, fatalities, that not only includes lightning, it has other sources of death, but one portion is lightning. So the next, please. This is a view from the month of May, the last few years. These are cloud tops. Whenever you see colors like black, blue, it means that in those areas during the month of May, the last few years, there's a tendency to have cloudy conditions over specific areas. Some of them are in South America in May, Central America, the intertropical convergence zone in the Pacific, south of Mexico. And but there are also areas that are inactive in cloud tops. Those are in the Atlantic, south in the Pacific, and in other areas. So this is May. It's the beginning of the rainy season here in Mexico and in Central America. So the next, now we'll see what happens during the next few months in the middle of the summer, when it's at the time when there's more activity here in Mexico. In June, July, you will see that the cloud tops start to develop in other areas, not like in May. There's in the Pacific coast of Mexico, also in southern Mexico toward Central America, and that happens June, July, August, and September. The peak is more or less August, and there's when we have more thunderstorms, more activity, more frequent in the whole country, well, at least in the northwest part of the country, and something called the North American monsoon. And it weakens in September, as you can see there in the satellite composites. The next slide. Now, we know there's a cloud cover, we know there are thunderstorms, heavy rain, and other events happening. What about lightning? So we're using Vaisala's GLD 360 network from 4 years, the whole year, each one of these this period from 2019 to 2022. And this is a composite of what happens on average during the year. The areas with more density, which means more lightning per unit area, are located in specific places. It's not everywhere. Some places are along the coast, along the Gulf of Mexico, with the maximum the Southern Gulf. where you can see a red rectangle or dark. And there are also areas in the Pacific coast. One is to the west, the state with a lot of activity that we will mention a bit later, and also states to the south or also inland in central Mexico near Mexico City, and also part of the Gulf of Tehuantepec, which is to the southeast in this map. The next slide, please. So we did a lot of statistics with this lighting, and this is a quick summary, not many plots to show you, but I decided to, no, it's previous one. I decided to go in brief sentences to let you know what happens. The most active areas are inland, near the Gulf of Mexico, over slope terrain. That's the red rectangle you can see there. And there's also there are also active areas inland or along the coasts, in the higher elevations inland, and more of 50% of the total electrical activity happens in July, August, and September. Remember the previous slide had cloud cover. So we expect to see that. And with this network, we're able to confirm that fact. Most of the lightning happens during the evening and hours between local time, 3 p.m. and after midnight. The next slide, please. Now, what about the lightning database, the death database? The Mexican government, since 10 years ago, started to develop a database with mortality information. It's based on a World Health Organization classification, and it includes all sources of deaths, medical, geophysical related deaths, everything is there. All the each fatality, the record includes date, time, location, and more specific information. Among the sources of what is called the forces of nature, lightning in this database happens to be the most important or the highest percentage. About 40% of this database in the natural forces is lightning here in Mexico. The rest has to do with heat waves, with cold waves in the winter, and with other sources such as landslides, earthquakes, uh, storms like hurricanes, or other sources that are part of the database. The next one. About the lightning-related deaths in this middle of the page. Almost a bit more than 80% of the total reports has only one death. And about the rest, about 10% is only two people. And the way we decided to find that is with the database, the records that are one per death. We look at the same time, the same date, the same location, the same source of the death, and we decided that was two or more people in the event. About 5%. The rest of this distribution has deaths between 3 and 7. We didn't find any event with more than 7 people that died at the same time, or nearly at the same time, according to the records. Most of the deaths, as we expected, are between May and September in the evening, young males between 10 and 40 years old, and also at locations, outdoor locations such as Broad Street, farm, or home. At the next. But we also found a percentage of deaths that were not were unknown, the location of the death, unfortunately, in this database. This is a sample map with the distribution of death at the county level. In Mexico, we have 32 states, but we have 2,500 counties, which are the ones that are plotted there in gray. This map indicates that most of the deaths in this 25-year period occurred in specific locations, such as the state with number 1, state of Oaxaca and the Pacific coast, and the other states that you can see there. Actually, the other states and the other counties that you can see. The maximum here is more than 21 in this map, is light blue. And the next level is between 15 and 20, which is red. The next one. If we look at the time series, the timeline of these 25 years of information, we're able to find that at the national level, which is the dark line in this plot, this is the average rate of deaths per million people per year. Well, it started a bit high in this plot in the late 90s, early 2000s, and has been decreasing in the last few years. And the last 10 years, the dash box to the right has lower numbers. It has been fortunately going down. It's not zero, but it's going down. And at the end, I will mention why we think this is happening. The next one. So this is we're on time.
Yes, we have 1 or 2 more minutes, please. Sorry.
Well, we can select certain states and specific counties. I will go quickly in the next one, and able to find and compare between different counties what happens between one and the other. The next one. We are also looking at specific statistics on the lightning and deaths from the GLD 360 data and the death database. And the next one. And looking for specific states where most deaths happen, such as in this case in Central Mexico. The next one. Last one. Conclusions. Mexico is in the tropical area, and we are during the warm season. We have large regions of deep convection and lightning. And since 1998, the national database of deaths is providing useful information. We are able to find states that are more active in deaths. And finally, most of the deaths are in rural areas, not in large cities. Rural areas, and the death rate has been decreasing in the last 10 years. We believe that one reason why this decrease is happening is because the government is providing outreach programs, letting people know in advance, and also social media for young people is very popular here, and it's a quick way to know what's happening, such as ways such as Twitter or X now, Facebook, other web pages. So perhaps that's why it's helping to improve this decrease to death rates in Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. Yes, we're running kind of behind here. Thank you. I want to make one comment. It's that lightning is the #1 geophysical cause of lightning of deaths, and that's an unusually large percentage. In the United States, we have tornadoes and hurricanes, but the large percentage of lightning in Mexico is quite remarkable. Are there any other short comments, please?
Oh, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
It's a little scratchy.
We actually just been having lightning here in Port of Spain, Trinidad. So good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak and present to the group. What's on the screen at the moment is showing you some of the lightning that we had last year associated with tropical cyclone Tammy. If you click on that picture, I'm not sure who's clicking. You can see the animation, or it should have run through already. But what is showing you that tropical cyclones are our biggest and most dangerous threat. But actually on the outskirts, on the edges, on the rain bands, very far from the center of the storm is where you can often have tremendous lightning and very dangerous conditions for lightning in the Caribbean. And next slide, please. So we have, I'm representing here the Caribbean Meteorological Organization. We have 16 English-speaking member states, and we originated from the British Caribbean Meteorological Services in 1951. Next slide, please. So we recognize that there is this gap in the early warning systems when it comes to lightning detection and safety awareness, and it's become much more obvious in recent years. We've had high school footballers or soccer in the US having many incidents of casualties, no deaths, fortunately, but several casualties in recent years in major football tournaments. And they've had to, in some case, adjust the timing for the start of these. But as everyone has noted, young men outdoors, afternoon is prime target for lightning strikes. Agriculture is also another situation, and the example shown in the right is from the parish that I'm from in St. Elizabeth, Southwest St. Elizabeth, which is the peak of lightning in Jamaica. Aviation, which is critical to everyone, but more so in a tourism dependent region. We've had situations where the civil aviation building was struck in 2017, and they contacted us because they said people were in a panic and unsure of what to do. So this is an impetus for us to respond. And of course, there's business outages, and a couple of examples are shown on this slide as well for when things have to be stopped or delayed. Next slide, please. More recently, we had a situation not so long ago, just the 29th of June in Barbados, where they lost records going back to 1800s in Barbados from a lightning fire. And it was just devastating. This is records of births, deaths, what was called the vestry, and the government documents from the colonial period and various other kinds of records are just lost, irreplaceable. We also had 8 students hospitalized in the Bahamas last month following lightning hitting a tree. The picture down below is of my old high school in Jamaica. They're actually inside a room having a club meeting when they were struck. Everyone ended up being okay after being taken to the hospital. But this shows you some of the places that are quite vulnerable in the Caribbean. In Cuba in 2022, they had fires that lasted a long time because there were lightning fires in oil installations, and they had to call in international help. And as I said, in St. Elizabeth, where I'm from, it's quite common for us to have lightning strikes and deaths. Next slide, please. So all of this led us to have the very first symposium on lightning and lightning safety awareness with the assistance of the World Meteorological Organization in 2021. We had 131 participants from 28 countries with simultaneous Spanish-English translation. And out of that, we examined a number of persons in this group right now participated. Thank you so much for doing that, where we discussed injuries, detection, forecasting, safety awareness, protection measures in sports, in outdoor activity, in all sorts of different situations. We had participants from public, private sector, and academia, including air navigation, electricity, water. They discussed options for lightning detection. What are some of the practical advice that we can do? But our region doesn't actually have its own ground-based network. Next slide, please. One of the things we are doing in the meantime, of course, is raising awareness. And if you could please click on that black square over there. That is what was produced by the Caribbean Media Corporation. They took our very dry information that's on the left-hand side and turned it into this very nice medium with audio emphasis and so on to share with the general public. And this is one of the ways that we've continued to raise awareness of lightning safety, and also with other media partners who amplify our message. Next slide, please. So this is a slide that was developed by Katerina Wirtz from the University of Alabama with the support of Steve Goodman, whom some of you will know. And this is showing you the difference between the GLD 360 and the GOES Lightning Mapper. And you can see that there are some areas where things are a little bit different, even though the overall pattern looks similar. So for example, around to the west of Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and near Cuba, you can see there's a big difference in the GLD 360 relative to the Lightning Mapper. And as was explained earlier, that this is really good for showing a lot of big broad distributions. Next slide, please. So for our 16 English-speaking member states, you can see the peak lightning density per member. And while the orders of magnitude are similar, you can see that there are some differences among these the different global detection systems that are displayed here. This indicated, of course, that there's a need for a ground-based Caribbean lightning detection network in order to improve the accuracy and monitoring and warnings that are associated with lightning in the Caribbean. Next slide, please. So I'm showing you a brief snippet from a study that, can you go back one, please? Yes, a study that was led by Ron Holle, and thank you, Ron, of Jamaica's situation in terms of damage and lightning distribution. And you can see, of course, that the seasonal distribution is high. The peak is in September, and so is the casualty events. And the peak in terms of diurnal cycle is in the afternoon. And you can see that most of these, not displayed here, but most of these are young men, similar to what was shown for Mexico, young men outdoors and in these periods of the day and the seasons. Next slide, please. This brings us to where we are now in terms of the Caribbean and the way forward. Through the Climate Risk and Early Warning Systems second Caribbean project, which is using those pillars that were described by the first speaker in our webinar today from the WMO. These are the pillars of an early warning system that includes risk knowledge, monitoring, and warning and dissemination. And we, together with other partners, are very focused on that pillar number 3. And the next slide will go into some more details. So with this next slide, we are focusing on the National Meteorological and Hydrometeorological Services provision of observation, monitoring. I'm not sure why things are moving away, but if you could go back, please. Thank you. So yes, so what we have is this pillar number 3, which focuses on the monitoring and forecasting aspect of various hazards, hydrometeorological and related hazards. We're looking here at the capacities of lightning detection awareness building being strengthened on a regional level as one of the big projects that we will be delivering with funding from the cruise. And our partners in this are shown in the right, the regional partners, and the WMO and the UNDRR, and of course funding from the cruise are noted here. Next slide, please. So this is my second to last slide. So in attempting to close the early warning system gap when it comes to lightning detection and awareness building, we are aiming to reduce the casualties, the damage to infrastructure, the fires, and also the outages that happen with electrical systems. We're in a modern world, we're very heavily dependent on electrical systems, which are, when they're down, they hamper the economies of the Caribbean, where we definitely need to have development. So we'll be inviting persons to join an ad hoc regional working group on lightning, which will be linked to this international group. And we're also leveraging usage and data that has been gathered from a new severe weather database that was created last year and launched in August through the Severe Weather Forecasting Program that is led by the WMO, and the CMO and Meteor France Martinique co-chair the management of that severe weather forecasting program. And this deals with severe weather that is not tropical cyclone, wind and warning related. So that those areas that were lighting up in that first picture on my first slide would be where the concern would be for this severe weather forecasting program. And of course, any time of year in December, January, February, whenever, outside of hurricane season, we also are the main people focusing on that. We have some goals, and if you click, another thing will appear. Yes. So our plan is we are planning to develop this action plan with the support of our partners and others who are interested in the Caribbean. I'm hoping in this audience, there are some of you, to look at opportunities for working together with public, private sector, and academia, and to develop the capacity in targeted countries with like Jamaica, Belize, and the Eastern Caribbean. We're finding like Barbados is having increasing exposure to lightning. When I was a student there, people used to shelter rain on the tree, which I had never seen in my life before, having come from Jamaica. But in Barbados, they're having now to deal with increasing amounts of lightning in recent years. Establishing and promoting the benefit of this regional detection system, we're planning to put in a small prototype sub-regional detection network through this project to start that process to see how this benefits, and then use that information and use that to leverage into a bigger project for the region as a whole. And this is important. The Caribbean is known for, lots of maritime activity. And for example, the BVI is like the second yachting capital of the world. And over the last few years, there's been triple the number of losses from lightning at sea. So we need to really improve the detection over the Caribbean itself. So my final slide is just to thank you very much for your attention and your time. And there's a link there to the presentations and the symposium that we had a few years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arlene. I think a few years ago, we were in contact with each other. You said, I don't know why we're talking about lightning. So I went through my records and found all sorts of cases. So anyway, here you are going forward with the program. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Ron. Much appreciated your leadership in this area.
Yeah. Other questions? Well, we look forward to where you're going with this in the future. In the interest of time, you have a meeting coming up and we are running quite late. So thank you very much, Arlene. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Take care and all the best for the rest of the time.
Thank you. All right. So if we can go back to Chris. I mentioned who he is. I've known worked with Chris quite a long time. He's the manager of the Wisconsin Environmental WISCONet. He started there in April 23 after 8.5 years at Faisal. I worked with him for about 5 years at Faisal. He has a bachelor's degree in applied meteorology from Mississippi State and a master's degree also. He's an active member of both the American Meteorological Society and the National Weather Association. All right, Chris, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Ron. I thought that somebody would be showing my slides, but I'll show them. I think I've got that ability. And make sure, are you seeing my full slides or are you seeing my display?
You're seeing the whole display.
Okay. So we're going to talk about the development of ground strike point density maps for the United States. We're going to have very few words on these slides and a lot of pretty pictures, so it should be fairly pleasant to go through. We're going to first start with a couple of videos of different lightning flashes. This is a lightning flash near Houston, Texas. And there will be a second lightning flash from the same area right here.
Can you go full screen? Sorry.
This way, Ron?
That's much better. Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's what I had been asking.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are two different lightning flashes from the Houston area. And then this is a lightning flash from Wyoming. And they are drastically different. The first two lightning flashes, they all hit the same point on the ground, and this one obviously did not. In fact, we counted at least 5 strokes that hit the ground in 3 or 4 different places. So the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So this is a challenge in lightning protection, and gets to the heart of the matter of coming up with ground strike points as opposed to flash densities or lightning stroke densities, and how you go about doing that. And the IEC standard 62858 sets requirements for lightning location systems for computing ground flash density and the strike point density. And you can see the parameters here and how the National Lightning Detection Network, which is what we used for this work, how that compares. And the NLDN has a better than 97% flash detection efficiency with very high location accuracy of better than 100 meters, and classifies the lightning very accurately as well. 92% CGs, 86% for in-cloud lightning. And you can read the papers below there to get more details on the performance. Now, because of the NLDN performance, we can cluster cloud-to-ground strokes into ground strike points. And this is an 8-stroke flash near somewhere in California. You can see Woodside, Half Moon Bay, Miramar, San Gregorio there to kind of center your location with multiple ground strike points. The 2 black circles, strokes 1 and 2, being the first ground strike point, 3 and 4 in the blue as a second strike point, 5, 6, and 7 in the lighter blue are the third strike point, and stroke 8 there is the 4th strike point. We can look at the overlap of the confidence ellipses for each cloud to ground stroke to determine which of those strokes likely came down the same channel to hit the same point on the ground, to cluster strokes into ground strike points. So what we ended up doing was looking at 6 years worth of data from 2017 to 2022. We reprocessed all of that data to the same location algorithm to ensure that all the lightning that was detected was processed on the same algorithm, and came to these statistics, an average of 55.5 million cloud-to-ground strokes per year that were a part of 23.5 million flashes per year in the US, and those struck an average of 36.8 million ground strike points, which, if you do all the math, each flash had a multiplicity of about 2.4, and there were about 1.6 ground strike points per flash, which, this information very beneficial, critical for lightning protection calculations, and gives a more accurate count of the ground strike points per flash instead of multiplying by 2 to be a rough estimate. So there are other groups around the world that are doing these sorts of things as well. Meteorology and folks in South Africa, Japan's looked at some of this as well. So with improvements in lightning detection capabilities, we're able to get these more precise numbers and create these very high resolution maps. This is all on a 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer grid. So this is ground strike points per square kilometer per year for CONUS. It follows fairly similarly to the stroke or flash density maps, but this one's specifically related to the ground strike points. And perhaps most interestingly is the ratio map of the ground strike points per flash. And in the United States, especially, the low density or the low strike point per flash ratio over the northern plains. A lot of this related to intracloud dynamics and having more positive flashes in this part of the United States. And to really kind of drive home the point of how this is useful and how high resolution this is. This is kind of a zoomed in view over the Smoky Mountain National Park, where you can definitely see some pockets of higher and lower strike density and stroke density, flash density, and the ratios along the spine of the Appalachians here. So all of this work was published in the Bulletin of the AMS earlier this year. So if you want more details on that, definitely take a look at that paper. It is open access, so no paywall blocking that. So it's freely accessible for those of you in the community who are interested in more details about how exactly we did that, the benefits of the ground strike point density maps and things like that. Very cognizant that we've been running behind schedule here, so I'm going to wrap up here and open it to any questions, and feel free to contact me if you want any more information.
All right, any comments? This was a really difficult study to make because it's so intricate analysis methods had to be developed. And Chris and I did not do the work. Martin Murphy and Ryan Saeed did much of the work. There's no further questions. We'll go to John Jensenius, who actually was, I see the agenda was earlier than Chris, but anyway, John is perhaps the premier documenter of lightning deaths in one country. And he is a meteorologist and lightning safety specialist with the National Lightning Safety Council. He retired from the National Weather Service in 2019 after more than 41 years. And in 2001, while working for the National Weather Service, he initiated the first National Lightning Safety Awareness Week. So Lightning Safety Awareness Week is the last full week in June in the U.S. In addition, John has tracked and documented about 400 fatal lightning incidents in the U.S. since 2006. So go ahead, John. Thank you.
Well, good morning and good afternoon and good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. I will go ahead and share my presentation because I don't see it up on the screen. I did want to, first of all, point out Chandima in his opening remarks mentioned the importance of media, and I don't think that can be overstated. Working with the media is extremely important. And as I say, I can't overstate the importance of that. At this point, I am not able to share my screen. So if you can allow me to share my screen, that would be great.
I think that Dyla has left to go to an airport. Is someone else monitoring this?
She's just let me in because it's a separate thing you have to click. So let me pull up your slides, John, and I will let you in a second. There they are. Okay.
Okay. I'll let you know when I can see it.
Oh, maybe.
Share your screen.
There they go.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you.
And if you want to go ahead and start the presentation.
You can go full screen.
I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. I gotta move this up a little bit.
Down at the
There
bottom.
we go. Okay. Go for it.
Can you
Okay.
go full screen?
Uh,
Yeah, it's that one. It's not allowed. All right, we can't do it. It's blocked out.
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, first of all, go ahead and next slide. I wanted to start a little bit about the talk about the campaign and how the Lightning Safety Awareness Week fits into it. Our campaign started in 2001. We had about 55 people being killed each year by lightning. And when you looked at the stories of people being killed, it was pretty apparent that the people just simply didn't understand all the dangers associated with lightning. The incidents, when they did happen, were only carried by local news, so only local people heard about them. And the media only did stories after an incident. So our goal was to hopefully get information out before people got killed. Great, thanks, Marianne. And finally, the focus at that time, as far as safety information, was to tell people what to do once they were in danger. So overall, the goals were to change things. First of all, of course, we wanted to reduce the number of lightning deaths and injuries. We wanted to provide education and awareness material so it was available not only to people, but to the media and everyone else. We wanted to increase the coverage of incidents. So if somebody got struck, we wanted it to be more than a local issue. If somebody was struck in Florida, I wanted to hear about it in Maine. And we wanted to encourage the media to do stories before people were struck rather than after they were struck. And in particular, that's where Lightning Safety Awareness Week came in. And finally, one of the goals was to change the focus from what to do when you're caught in a dangerous situation to what to do so you don't get caught in a dangerous situation. Prior to that time, we heard, well, if your hair stands up, do this, and don't stand under a tree, and don't stand out in the open. So we wanted to change that focus. So as far as education and awareness materials, primarily we worked on the materials on the websites, the NOAA website initially, and then the National Lightning Safety Council website. We also use Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to try and get that information out to people. Those are very important for getting things out to the public. But again, I can't overemphasize the importance of the media. Next slide, please. So how do we get media and increased coverage from the media? Well, I have an email distribution list that I send out right now to approximately 450 people. Whenever there's a lightning death or significant lightning incident. I provide a link to the article. I provide statistical information, which is always important to the media when they're doing a story. How many deaths have we had this year? How many deaths in that particular state? And then updated maps of statistics and graphics. So if they want a graphic, they've got one in hand. Next slide. So as I said, we don't do it alone. We need, first of all, the broadcast and print media to get the information out. The National Weather Service offices across the country, we have more than 200 National Weather Service offices. Those are extremely important. They also work with their local media. We work with state and local emergency officials, sports and recreational organizations, and safety organizations. And finally, we do provide information directly to the public through our Facebook, through YouTube, and through Twitter, Instagram, and also LinkedIn. Next slide. So again, we want to encourage the media to do the lightning safety stories prior to when people were struck, and that really is the purpose of Lightning Safety Awareness Week. Now I want to go through a few things quickly about Lightning Safety Awareness Week. Next slide. As I said, that's the goal, is to change it to the focus from what to do when you're caught in a dangerous situation to what you can do so you don't get caught in that dangerous situation. And our message focuses on planning, awareness, and making good decisions. Next slide. So there's a look at our Lightning Safety Awareness Week page. You can see the various topics at the bottom of the page. This is Lightning Safety Awareness Week in the United States. Today, the focus is on medical effects on lightning victims. And you can see we've had various topics throughout the week, and we've promoted those topics. If you look at the tabs at the top of the website, you can see each tab is aligned toward the one of the topics in our week. Next slide. And just an example, there's the webpage on lightning, introduction to lightning safety. You'll notice we have a video at the top. I've tried to include things at the top of the website so people don't have to read through and get to the bottom. They can click on things if they want things like tips or a video. Next slide. And again, here's another one, and you can see we have Watch, which is a video, graphics, which are things that they can post real quickly on social media, and more information, more details. Next slide. Here's just one of the things that we had there. How fast is lightning? Just some simple facts that people can look at, they might be interested in. Next slide. Protecting yourself and your family outdoors. Outdoors, of course, is the topic we're most concerned about. Again, you can see in this case, we have under more information, a fact sheet from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration and a brochure from the Weather Service, in addition to the graphics and the videos. Next slide. And just one of the graphics for our outdoor lightning safety. And the thing I want to point out here is if you look at the tips, you don't see anything about don't do this, don't do that. It's all focused on what we want people to do. Listen to the forecast, plan activities to avoid the lightning threat. If thunderstorms are predicted, consider canceling or postponing outdoor activities, especially if you won't be able to get to a safe place. While outdoors, monitor weather conditions. If the sky looks threatening or you hear thunder, go to a safe place immediately. Don't ignore any signs of approaching storm and remain there for 30 minutes. There are no don'ts there. It's all focused on what we want people to do. Next slide. I did mention we do have videos. That's a whole list of the videos. We actually made them 4 years ago, and they are at the top of our web pages for each day of the week. It's interesting to me with the focus on the particular videos that are listed on our Lightning Safety Awareness Week website. Next slide. In the last 28 days, we have had, it says 889, but I can tell you right now we're approaching probably 940 views in the last 28 days. And while we've been in this conference since 12Z, I noted a few minutes ago that we're up around, actually we're over 50 views on our videos while we've been sitting here today. So we're very appreciative of that. Next slide. And then finally, as I said, our overall goal was reducing lightning deaths and injury. That's just simply a graph of the 10-year moving average. When we started the campaign, it was 55. We're down to 21 right now. So that's just a quick look at what we've done for our Lightning Safety Awareness Week. And as I said, it seems to be working quite well. And if there are any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
Thank you, John. I think this work that John is doing can be a model for other countries. John is dogged in looking for cases that are very hard to find, and has done a good job so that I don't think anyone killed by lightning in the U.S. in the last few years is likely to be missed by the database. So, any other questions or comments?
Great work, John.
Hearing no other questions, I guess we'll move into our last session.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to introduce Ron Holle, but I think in the presence of time, you've already heard from him enough to where you know who he is. So Ron, whenever you're ready.
So do I share screen or is somebody else running it?
I guess Mary Ann's doing it.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah, I think so. So I'm gonna have to stop that and share a different. Hang on a second. There we go. That should be full screen, right?
Looks good. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I'm a meteorologist first and lightning specialist second. But anyway, in the middle there is the National Lightning Safety Council that John just talked about. And what's on the logo is when thunder roars, go indoors, and no place outside is safe. I'm also participating in ACLENet for many years and also do photography and other things. So next. Just a brief review of where we are. The GLD 360 network has been detecting 2.2 billion events every year. So that's a lot of lightning. And it's not all of it, but it's a very significant portion of it. You see maxima over the equatorial areas and also over North America. And this is available at an annual lightning report from ISO. Next. I just want to point out, if you go to this interactive map, it's fun to play with. Interactive-lightning-map, ISO.com. You can zoom in on each country and go down to the district, state, or province level, whatever they're called, and get lightning density, even a map of lightning density. So this is dynamic and a good one to look at. Next. So again, there's only two safe places inside of a large, substantial, frequently occupied building, inside a fully enclosed metal top vehicle. Those are reliably safe. Next. So one of my projects has been to look at, try to find out how many people are killed in the world by lightning. Not so easy to come up with. So I published a study that's down below in 2016 where I summarized all the publications that are documented about lightning deaths. And these are fatality rates per million per people. It's kind of the standard we've developed. You see that all the largest numbers are in red in Africa. All the red ones are in Africa. Then you see other countries that have medium ones, including Mexico, as Luis Farfán showed, and India, and so on. So these are the rates on the right. The Malawi data is from an unusually collected data set that I don't think is correct, but that's in the literature. So there it is. All right, next. And here's the number of deaths, not a rate, but actual deaths. Now, India probably leads the world, but we just don't know about quite a few countries in Africa and possibly Southeast Asia. Next. So this is a complicated one. So when you take all these studies that are actually published, you get 4,491 fatalities per year, assuming that what was going on during their study period in the last 20 years is continuing. And as Luis showed, even Mexico is having a decrease, and the US is also having a decrease. So my estimate of 10 or 15 years ago was 24,000 deaths per year. And I don't know whether that will be correct or not. So I hope it's not, but I sometimes think it may be. Next. So here's the number of lightning deaths per year from the early 1920 period. The deaths in the US were 450 per year, and it's now down to, last year was 13. And this year again, it's low. So the factors that I think are involved in this reduction, and first of all, one of the reasons for fatality rates is the density of lightning, the density of population, and then the rate is impacted by the quality of housing and other buildings, amount of labor-intensive agriculture. That's particularly true of India and Bangladesh and other African countries. The awareness of the threat, ready availability of vehicles, public education, and medical care. All these factors are convoluted inside of this and difficult to come up with simple relationships. Next. One of the things that we found years ago in the US was that the lightning fatality rate in red has gone down from over 6 in early 1900 period down to 0.1. I don't think there's any meteorological factor, phenomenon that has caused such a dramatic decrease in lightning deaths. And then a parallel figure set of data is the blue points, which are the percent of the population living in rural areas in the United States. It started out 60% in 1900 time frame, down to around 20% right now. And this is quite similar to a number of other countries around the world. It's not the only factor, but it's part of it. Next. And John already talked about this. I guess I'll put this in anyway. When John talks about documenting everything in the US, this is what one of the data sets looks like, 13 deaths last year. So we have this. And again, look at right there. 2006 was 49 fatalities. Last year was 13. And this year we only have 3 so far. So there's a lot of factors involved, but this is encouraging. And next slide. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. We have any questions for Ron? Well, given that we're now reached 1 hour over, it's been suggested that we not do the last minute questions and we go directly to Dr. Cooper for the final words.
Okay, if that's okay, that's okay with everybody. I want to thank Diala Zhang particularly. She's the organizer who created this conference and has done all the correspondence. She's just done a marvelous job. I'm sure she'll post the recording for the conference to those who could not attend or who had to join late or leave early. I'd also like to thank the speakers, panelists, and other organizers behind the scenes for all their work. I've been astounded and so pleased with the quality of the talks for this meeting. We always run late. This is nothing new, but thank you for those who have stuck around, for all of those who have posed questions and attended. Education is the key to improving lives, and you've chosen to spend your time this morning or today educating yourselves. I now officially appoint you all as lightning safety ambassadors. Go out and advocate for better lightning protection, educate your families, the public, and students about lightning safety and what they can do to save themselves, their families, and others. Educate and involve the media. They are so important to be involved in this effort to save lives. And practice lightning safety yourselves. God bless you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for attending. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everyone.
Stay safe.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.